Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday evening. It is 9 o'clock. Time to gather in the music room and have a live stream. But first, as always, a little music. Enjoy.
We are all the heirs to Scotland, as a nation proudly stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum.
Hi, folks. That's the link for you to come on, Chris. I've put in the chat there. So if you would just use it, and then later on, Toffee can use it when he's coming on to read his poem out. Good evening, Skywalker, Anglo, October. Oh, it's a bit of a rush. I didn't have a great day today, folks, I must be honest. In fact, it was a phone going that wakened me up. It was our moderator, Steve. So he was wondering why there's no notifications. There's Chris now.
Hello there. I've got my broken glasses on tonight, John. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I was just going to ask for a little sound check. That's fine.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see
Now,
that?
Yeah, I can see you.
Story of my life, this broken glasses. So
It's been a bit of a day here at my end, I must be honest. In fact,
How
no,
you doing, sir? You all right? You okay?
no, I didn't have a good day today. I did not have a good day today. Started fine. Then about halfway through the afternoon, believe it or not, uh, I'm frozen. I'm sitting here frozen. I had to put this cardigan on. And I thought, what I'll do is I'll sit out the back in the sun, get heated up. I needed a packet of cigarettes. I'll go and get a packet of cigarettes. And I never heated up. So then I had another catastrophe. I couldn't get out the deck chair and fell back into the garden hut. And I don't know how badly I've damaged that.
Oh, blimey, mate.
It's just, and of course, I haven't felt great. So I'd fallen asleep on top of the bed, and Steve, our moderator, phoned because there was no notifications going.
Oh,
Well, that's fine, because if he hadn't phoned, I'd still be asleep. I'm telling you. But I've never done that in my life. I've never failed to show for an audience. I might show up, but it might not be very good in good condition. But I usually can make it. So how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm really good. It's just I've been cursing the wind today. We've had a strong easterly wind blowing through the garden, trying
Yeah.
to flatten my peas and my veg. But yeah, it's beautiful. The weather's beautiful. I'm loving it,
Oh,
and I've been sat out in the garden working today, and it's great. Yeah,
great. Yeah.
all good.
You
So I'm
can
sorry
see.
to hear your woes, though. That's terrible.
Ugh, it's just problems with getting old or being old. Put it that way. That's all it is. As I say, I lost the balance. I couldn't get up out of the chair, and then I got halfway, and I couldn't make it a full way, and I couldn't make it back, and then I lost my balance and smashed into the hut. So I'll need to have a look at it tomorrow and see how much damage I've done. It's the most expensive piece of plastic I've ever bought. This garden hut.
Was
Oh,
it?
there's,
Did you say you were sitting in a deck chair?
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah, a
what, like,
garden lounger type thing,
yeah, yeah.
And I was trying to get up, and I was kind of halfway not there, and then suddenly I went off to the left and into the hut.
Oh, blimey.
So at that point, I decided you're going nowhere for a packet of cigarettes, because you just might go down in the street somewhere, and that would be
Oh,
totally
God.
disastrous. So I just came up the stairs, but I feel a lot better now. I've had that wee bit of a sleep. But of course, it was the last 5 minute rush there trying to get things sorted out. I'm sure you know what it's like.
Oh, I've just been running around looking for these.
Oh, the headset.
And, yeah, and because I don't really use them that often. But I had these things out,
Yeah.
and they're not very good. So I was a bit of a panic there. I thought I won't be able to hear anything. But anyway, I saw them. They're just lying on the chair, right in front of me.
Well, you'll notice I don't have my usual hat on, because I was wearing this afternoon, and I fell asleep with it on. So you all have to make do with the hat I'm wearing. I don't have my usual hat, and I've missed my special brew of tea, so I might be doing a little bit more coughing than I had been last night. But we'll get there. We're here. That's the main thing. So, give me a catch up on the writing front, Chris.
Yeah, it's still going. I've just finished. Well, probably since the last time I spoke to you, I've probably finished about 3 or 4 different short stories. The Bizarchives, the publisher I was talking about last time, the Bizarchives 5 is coming out very, very soon. and I think I've got 2 stories in that.
Good.
And I've just had an email today from South Africa. There's a science fiction and fantasy magazine there called Probe, and they're publishing one of my stories, which is actually set in the Boer War. It's an African themed one. So yeah, so that's coming out as well. So yeah, it's happening.
Excellent.
It's ticking
Excellent.
over. It's ticking over.
So one day you're going to be famous and rich and all that stuff.
I doubt it. I don't think so. But I'll be happy. I'll be
Sorry?
happy. I'll be happy at least because I'm doing what I love. So
That's it. I always say that why does anyone write anything? Well, for other people to read. And if you have people that are reading your material, what else can you ask for?
absolutely, absolutely. What about yourself?
No, I haven't been doing any. Well, having said that, I share this property with a downstairs neighbour. And last week I got a couple of lines came into my mind for what might be a new song. So I took my guitar and went away out, but every time I go out, he comes out, you know. And it's not really his fault. It's because his wife is not keeping so good. So he's at a loose end, Chris.
Looking for a bit of company, and yeah.
So I haven't made any movement on that. I think I'm going to have to stay indoors on that end. So you see if these couple of lines come to anything. But it's not something I've been, consciously chasing. The lines came into my mind, and I thought, because I think it was last year somebody in the chat asked me, do you think you're finished with the writing, John? And I said, yeah, I think I kind of am finished with the writing. I said, but you never know,
Yeah.
And so it came as a nice little surprise last week when these words came into my mind. But if I try and take it any further, it'll need to be in the house, regardless of the weather. My neighbour will be over speaking to me.
What can you do? When you're a good person, a good human being, what can you do? You've got to.
Well, we like to think, do we not, Chris, that if it were in reverse, other people would treat us that way, don't we? We like to think
Exactly.
that. Yeah. And I try and look at it that way. Not always possible, though. Have you brought along any? Oh, there's 42. He's gonna come back later. That's fine, 42. He had this commitment, came out of nowhere, so to speak. And I said that you and I would hold the fort until he showed up. And well, there he is. To my great surprise, there he is. So he'll be on later. We don't have to worry about that too much. Well, we've got a good man in you, Chris.
Oh, try my best.
So, Toffee's saying that you look like a Scouse. Scary in that cap. I don't normally wear this, as you know.
That's your poetry hat, mate. That's your poetry hat.
There you go, folks. Chris has just christened the hat. My old friend from YouTube, James Hayworth, is suggesting that I'm not going to be starting to rap, am I? What do you think of that as an art form?
I don't. I think I'm a bit of a stick in the mud about rap music. I just think it's. I mean, look, it's somebody's being creative, they've got that's got their place in whatever their culture is, and but it's just definitely not my cup of tea, as we say. It's I just find it grates me badly. I think it's apart from the fact that much of it is, most of the lyrics are vile, but
And not only are they vile, they're violent.
yeah, it's just really, I don't get it. Sorry, just don't get it.
Yeah. We have someone on our sides. You may have come across him. DJ. Have you met him?
Oh yeah. Not I've not spoken to him, but I've seen his work. Yeah.
Oh, you've heard his work?
I've heard. I think I've seen his. He does streams, doesn't he? Do streams? I think.
Yeah, he does streams, but he does music, and I would say it's rap-like in the sense that you've got that music stuff going on, and then he comes in with a kind of poetic monologue. The difference being with DJ's work is there's meaning to it. And it's well produced in my opinion, although I'm no expert. And I've played a couple of pieces on here. So we do have people on our side who can produce much better material in that format, which is always good for us.
Well, it's the oral tradition, isn't it? It's about when you're speaking out, and it's what you do with it. It's like anything. Everything's a tool.
Yes.
And what you do with that tool is the key thing. It's and obviously commercially, what I've seen is awful. But
Was it
in my humble opinion?
No. Well, I don't think your opinion's humble in any way at all. You are a published author, so that kind of sets you a little bit above the normal.
Puts me in the abnormal, John. Puts me in the
abnormal. So these are independent stories that you're going to have published in. It's not part of that series of books, the Albia thing.
No, that's done and dusted. That's. I've been thinking about writing in the long form again lately, but I have been doing short stories in the main. But I've been thinking about whether it's time to turn my hand to something a little bit longer. But you're just waiting for the muse to come,
Yeah, exactly. And he's kind of short supply as far as I'm concerned.
You have to be in the right frame of mind, and we've had a really busy couple of months, and with bits and pieces with family and so on, and whenever I have to be completely neutral of outside influences and things, and unfortunately when those things come in and life comes in and things you have to deal with, it turns off the tap for me a little bit. But yeah,
absolutely. What tends to turn off the tap for me is emotional trauma.
Yeah,
that's what gets me. But never mind. Would you like me to put on a piece of poetry?
Yes, please. Yeah, let's have some poetry.
I don't want to, just suddenly bring in Toffee, because this is his first time taking part, and I'm sure he's going to be a little bit nervous, although no doubt he'll deny it, but we know what that's like. So we can have a listen to this. Okay, folks, as I say, I'm kind of sorry about the material that's chosen. This was all within 10 minutes of waking up, but I hope you enjoy it.
Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkest thou doth overthrow, die not, poor death. nor yet canst thou kill me from rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be much pleasure. Then from thee much more must flow, and soonest our best men with thee do go, rest of their bones and souls' delivery. Thou slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and doth with poison, war, and sickness dwell, and popular charms can make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke. So why swellest thou then? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die.
You've recognised that, Chris.
I
Yeah?
recognise that. I recognise that voice. What was the piece? Was that your piece, John?
No, it's
No.
John Dunn.
Don, yeah. Yeah,
It's I saw it. Death.
another John.
Yeah, brilliant poet. Brilliant poet. I've got.
Are we allowed to do that tonight? Because I've got a sheet of papers here somewhere. So I've got some. I've chosen a couple of
Well,
poems.
I'm the same. I've got three poems that was sent in to me by an Australian lady by the name of Fiona Jane Ross. I have here also the Kipling poem that has been asked for by many people when I do this reading of Kipling's The Beginning.
I love Kipling.
Well, he's certainly one of us. In fact, had I not had this bad afternoon, I had a piece of narrative that I was going to read on Kipling, his attitude to the supernatural and death and all that stuff. But we can do that another time.
Well, I'm doing you a disservice because that was a great reading of Don there. By the way, it was a really atmospheric.
Thank you.
I should have said.
Well, as I say, I don't want to bring Toffee on right now because I'm sure he needs a wee bit of time to settle in, Chris. And like most people, he's shy about poetry. Most men are shy about poetry. Have you not discovered that yourself? Yeah.
I think. Well, I was saying to you, I think on the last stream we did, and I had a friend who he said, "Oh no, I don't read poetry," and then I read him that Wilfred Owen poem, one of the war poets, and he was really incredibly moved by it. But it was being read out. I think that did it. We were saying about that oral thing. When you speak it out,
Yeah.
like as we've just heard, it just has that impact. It's like the one person I often listen to. If I'm going to listen to a poem or a recitation, is Richard Burton. And Richard Burton, he's just got this voice which gives me the goose pimples, listening to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, would you like to read one yourself then? I know that when 42 comes on, he'll be bringing something of his material with him.
I'll just put my bottle lens back on so I can see.
Okay, doke.
With my sellotape. Would you like me to read something? Shall I read something?
Yes, please.
I've got a couple here, but one of them, the first one I've got, which is a bit long, but funnily enough, the first on the top of the list. I don't know if you can see that. It's a Kipling.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah, I can do that one. I've got two by other poets, and then I've got a few of my own there. But I'll read if you're okay with that.
No, I'm fine. This is
Now,
just a platform for poetry, as I said. I'm saying again, for all people in the chat, including Coffee, this is not a competition, nor is it literary criticism, right? It's to give people a platform who otherwise wouldn't have one, and that includes me. So you go ahead, Chris, and do your
well,
piece.
this is one of my favorite poems. So it's on the top of this sheet, and it's by Kipling, as I say. It's called If, and it's a very famous poem. It was written in 1909. I'll try and do it justice. My eyes are terrible, so I may stumble over some of the words, but I'll try. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for them doubting you, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you'd spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you, except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And what is more, you'll be a man, my son. I think it's just it's a cracker, that one, and it's
Well done, and nicely read, I might add.
I printed that one out for my son, had it framed for him. I said, just think about those words, son. That's something to
Yeah, to hold on to. I mean, how when you hear such great poetry as that, Chris, how can certain quarters claim that their culture is as good as ours, and when our people can produce this kind of material?
Yeah, we did it, and we still do it. I think we can still do it.
Of
And
course
so
we
well,
do.
so well. That
And the difference between you and I is we're still alive. Yeah. Uh, I would imagine that when you're dead, or I'll be dead lately before you, that people will look at the things that I've written in a slightly different way than they do today. Yeah. I must answer this question here from my moderator, Steve. John, did you have your head in the bread bin when you read this? No, what I did was I added, as I always do, 3% of reverberation, and it shouldn't sound that way. But what I have since learned is at the time it's going from the original disc through StreamYard, through YouTube, and you get to hear it. It sounds like a lot more has been added than really was added. If I played that on my house audio kit, you wouldn't hear that at all. Yeah, but it's the software how it does it. So there you go, Steve. That's the reason for
But I mean, that's the thing with the tech that's at our fingertips is that we can all do these things now, and
Yeah.
we can, so we can listen, we can play it, we can reject certain things, and we can re-record them. And when I've recorded poetry before, I've done a couple with Patriotic Alternative. We've done a few little video things of stuff I've written, and I'll do a few takes really before
Oh yeah.
I'll try and get into the Richard Burton head zone,
Well, I think we're all the same, are we not? I mean, we know we've got great material. This is the start point, isn't it? The poetry itself is great. And then the mountain that you're trying to climb as the reader is, can you, as an individual, match in interpretation and tonal quality this great piece? And that's where the art comes in.
Yeah.
People like Burton have spent, they spent their life making money from their voices, whereas you and I are mere amateurs, really. We do our best, but that's about it. So I'm going to read one of these poems that was sent in by Fiona, and then after that we'll get Toffee on.
So this is a lady from down under, is it? This is
yes,
from
she is. I think she's away on the upside of the continent, as opposed to Linda Hunter, who's on the downside of the continent. I think that's how it works. Okay, folks, this is a piece called Falling Asleep. Drowsily I listened to the radio turned down low, droning on, my eyes close. Words stringed together like beads on a necklace, making sentences, making sense, but only just. Drifting off, I half catch the thread of what's being said. Strings of words weave and meander, trailing on their wake, travelling and twirling. They gently bounce, become unstuck. The thread is broken, the meaning lost. The words and fragments fail into a jumble of letters on the floor in a dream. I pick up a broom and sweep the letters out of the room and out of the front door, and I watch as they roll and scatter, tumble and fall into the silent night. Nice, isn't it?
Yeah, great.
She's not with us tonight. She sent me an email. She's going to watch the replay tomorrow.
Wow.
So that's that. Do you want to make any comment on this, by the way?
It's that picture making in the mind, isn't it? I mean, that's the key thing. Is everything we do, if it's writing or whatever it is, or with words, and if you get the right words, I think she was hitting it there beautifully. It becomes incredibly evocative, and you start to see the pictures, and then it gets you here as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's where the skill is, isn't it? The skill is in that.
It's those two things, and I think it's I mean, you read that really well, and I think it's those two things. If the fabric is there, the woven fabric of the words, and then it's articulated. See, I've got this thing about, I keep saying this, but I think poetry is a form that deserves or has to be spoken.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
it's not. You read it and you can be moved by it. Like if when I've read that before, or I've tried to read it out, and I fill up with
Mm.
it, you know,
No,
and
no,
certain poems they just get you like that, you know, just those
absolutely.
words.
Absolutely. No,
I'm a I'm a big softie like John. I mean, I do. I'm the kind of person who cries at stupid films, you know, like Lassie and that, you know. But
well,
I do.
this is the other side of our European nature, is it not? We can be as hard as steel, but we are at the same time romantic in the high sense of that word and caring in the best sense of that word. And that's where all that relationship between men and women come together and is expressed through poetry.
Yeah.
And we do it best. We do it best.
It's something that's been with us for millennia, you know.
Yes.
And I often think about this, you know. I've got it somewhere here behind me. I've got a Seamus Heaney copy of Beowulf. But you know, you can just imagine this piece of prose being read by a skald, you know, this bard,
Yeah.
and to men who were hyper masculine. You know, these are men whose status within their status within their people would have been on how well they could have fought and how
Yeah.
brave they were, and yet they would have been you know, entranced and they would engage, because we know that because they've lasted, and the esteem that the bard, the poet, was held within those societies because
Yes.
they were the storytellers and they would grip their audience, and the
Absolutely.
audience would be absolutely invested in that you know, interaction with this majesty of words that came out, because it was there, you know. It's obviously long before television, and in their case, in certainly in the Anglo-Saxon sense, it would not before theatre. This is their theatre. It was a theatre of the mind, but it was
Yeah.
evoked by these incredible
Yeah.
wordsmiths.
Absolutely. And again, that it all fits into that way of life, because these are the things that would be spoken of around the fire
Yeah,
in the
and you
dark
can
nights.
imagine
You
as the
can.
fire, you know, the fire flickers and it's
Yeah.
casting these dark shadows, and the monster Grendel is appearing behind them, you know,
Yeah.
in their imagination.
Yeah. And at the same time, these are men who have probably gone out and killed a few folk, you know, in a battle somewhere, you know.
Oh, not even a question of it. There would have been, you know, they would
Yeah.
have to have that status, to be there. They would have had to have proven them. I mean, these are cultures where, you know, boys would have been encouraged to engage with violent action in order to prove themselves, to be able to get that status.
Yes. Absolutely.
Not that
This
I'm
is
endorsing violence, of
no,
course,
no,
but you know,
no.
we're just
Obviously,
talking about history.
exactly. And at the same time, these are the self same people, no doubt, round that fire, who are looking over their shoulder, you know, for the creatures of the dark night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what a wonderful legacy they have left us. And that's
Yeah.
why I get so frustrated when I hear all this, that all cultures are the same. Jeez.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, you know, I think to any culture, they have their measure and they have their joys and their processes and practices.
Yeah,
But we have ours, and we have to celebrate that and love it, you know. And
absolutely.
yeah,
I would like to. It wouldn't have been nice though if we could do this, what we're doing now, except if we were in a wooded place and all our audience were here with us in real life, and a big fire, and
in a
we,
mead hall,
yeah,
together,
that's
you
it.
know.
Yeah. Now you're talking. You get my point here, because that just adds, does it not? And who else
Yeah.
could do this? Who else but Europeans could do this? Yeah.
I agree.
No
I
one.
think it's just part of who we are. It's in our blood. It's in our makeup. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. In the blood. It's in the blood. And it doesn't matter which part of the island, Scotland, England, Wales, or Ireland, it's there. It just runs through us all.
Well, I think it's it's across the whole of the European continent. Certainly in certainly the Scandinavians and the Northern Europeans have that similar tradition.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
It's,
Okay, I'm going to put the link in and we'll see if we can get our friend on.
I hope he's not going to start making comments about my posh Scouse accent again.
Is he done that? Has it?
I'm only joking.
I don't hear a Scouse accent from you.
It's you know what? I think I probably said this on the last stream, but when I first went to South Africa when I was 16, 17, no one could understand what I was saying, so I had to start
Modulate your voice.
hammering it down, and
Yeah.
you can't chat up girls if they can't understand what you're saying, So
Oh, that's a huge handicap there, Chris.
yeah,
Huge.
so you have, and then teaching for years is you just have to sort of file it down a little bit. But don't worry, when I go back and visit family, it all comes back out again.
That's Toffee now. Good evening, Toffee.
You all right, gents?
Hello,
Yeah.
young man.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, you're okay for sound, my friend. You're okay.
You all right, Chris? You wool. It's got to be said. For anyone outside of the north, outside of Merseyside specifically, everyone on the outskirts of Liverpool, we call the wool. It gives me extra pressure. This, John, you've built that up, and we've got Chris there with his lovely accent. Do you ever remember Bullseye, that TV show?
Oh yeah.
And this is what you could have won. Chris's accent is like, and this is what your accent could be, instead of your caveman accent.
It's
very good.
listen, mate. It's the most beautiful accent in my ears. It's beautiful. It's
The
that's what-
Scouse accent.
yeah. When I go and I say when I go home, when I go back to visit family and that, it's and I slip back into it a little bit, but it's just. I remember when I was when we came back to Britain. I think we came in the mid-90s, and I was working in London, and I used to go up on the train to go and visit my family, my cousins and uncles and whatever.
Sure.
And every time, because London's such a kind of I'm not dissing anybody who's listening on the stream from London, but the warmth as soon as I got off the train and it was all right, love, and it just felt like I'm home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, as much as people take the mick, people tend to enjoy our little lilt of an accent.
Yes.
They tend to.
Well, I was going to ask you, Toffee, as I haven't spoken to you for a while. How are you? Generally
I'm
speaking.
good, thank you, sir. I had an operation on my nose recently. Due to,
Well, I
I had
heard
it-
you had an operation, and I jumped to the wrong conclusion, thinking it was all tied up to that big accident you had.
No. It was just from years of boxing and getting punched in the nose, basically. So I had a deviated septum. So I had to. I tell you what, funnily enough, I couldn't get on the NHS. I had to pay for it with Spire, which is like Bupa, which is a private healthcare. Cost me a bomb, like.
Wow.
And I'd never had an operation before, and I didn't have. I was kecking it like I was really frightened. I'd never been under a general anaesthetic, but it was nothing really. And I feel like I couldn't breathe properly because my nose was so messed up, and it feels like I've had like a tennis ball removed from my head, and I can breathe properly finally. Oh, such a relief.
So when you say boxing, do you mean you used to do amateur boxing? Is that what you mean, Toffee? Or you just mean boxing in the street?
A bit of both.
A bit of
Yeah,
both.
I've spoken to you about it, John. I've a bit of a keen amateur boxer in me day, me. Northwest regionals and whatnot.
Right. Well,
I couldn't have been too good since I've been punched in the nose so many times. Like,
well, believe it or not, I happened to be watching Rocky 2 last night, and then I still think it's funny when he says he's broke my nose again when he's fighting Apollo Creed.
Adrian!
Exactly. So the form here is give us a title, and then whenever you're ready, my friend, you just read your poem.
Oh, lads, I'll have to. Disclaimer. I only wrote this because you said you were looking for entries. This is nursery rhyme stuff, to be honest with you. It's only 3 verses. It's not my forte. Don't laugh. It's about me doggies. You know how much I love my dogs. So I've called it 7, as I have 7 dogs. Right. Silence, please, in the hall. Let's go down to Sefton Park and run around and play. Then we'll cuddle on the couch, upon my chest you'll lay. Your waggly tails and your cold wet nose. Humans don't deserve dogs, as the old saying goes. Blue Toffee, Dixie, Gladys, Prince, Domingo and Sky. My 7 precious doggies, you're the apples of my eye. Crickets. Tumbleweeds.
Oh, it's brilliant, mate.
You
know what?
I don't think there's anything crappy about that at all.
And that's from the heart.
Well, it's authentic.
It is.
Well.
Oh my God, I've gone bright red.
Well, just we can't see. We don't see you. No, I've had these arguments over the years.
Look like a Liverpool shirt.
about poetry, and what is more important than how technically good a poem is how authentic it is. I'd rather have authenticity than have something that is technically brilliant but not authentic. What do you think, Chris?
I think I listened to that, and that meant more to me listening to that than anything from what's his name, Andrew Motion, or the so-called poet laureates, and that's meaningful. That's from the heart, and it's
So I'm technically better than the poet laureates.
Yeah. You're the Liverpool laureate.
There you go, Toffee.
Yeah, I'll give you another quick one, lads, before I drop out, like a proper one. I'm a big fan of Coleridge.
Oh, yeah.
Weave a circle around him thrice, and close your eyes with holy dread. For he from honeydew hath fed, and drunk the milk of paradise. I like that one.
Is that Xanadu? Was that from Xanadu, was it?
Was it a Kubla Khan?
Kubla Khan.
Oh, in Xanadu, did Kubla Khan was it a pleasure to home decree? I can't remember.
Yeah. It's a long time since I read that one.
Yeah, nice.
For sure.
Right, I'll duck out, chaps. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Love yous.
And
well
thanks
done,
very much for making the contribution, Toffee.
Ta-ra, lad. I like that hat there you got on there, John, lad. You look like you're going to fucking bagel me house. Ta-ra, lads.
Right, we'll speak later. Bye just now.
I do think one of his dogs should have been called Shankly.
Oh.
So wait till he goes off before I say that. I'm only joking, Toffee. But you know what? I'm a dog lover. One of my dogs died about where we had to have him put down. He was about 15, about 5 weeks ago, and I broke my heart. It's just it's the thing is with dogs is they give you that unconditional love. They're there for you. They're always there. They're always happy to see you. And Toffee's poem just really summed that up. That kind of feeling, that connection with your dogs.
you feel the connection between the author and the dogs. It's there. That's why I say it's authentic. It's a piece of authentic poetry, and that's why I've always said that that's the most important thing. You have to know when you hear a poem that I can trust that poet's voice, that he's telling me or she is telling me exactly how they feel about something or other.
Yeah.
And that overrides any technical thing that you can do. If you've got the technical thing, sure, that can add to it, but it has to be authentic.
Well, I know I was looking up the other day. I was looking up iambic pentameters, is it? And
Yeah.
I was looking at all that. I think I'm just a bit dyslexic when it comes to trying to get those things to soak into my head, and I think and then I realised it's about speech pattern anyway. That's what it's all about anyway. So
Yeah.
not worry about the technical things.
That takes us back to you have to say it aloud. Even if you're the only person in the room, you have to speak it aloud.
Yeah.
So that your ear gets accustomed to the rhythm.
Yeah.
And as you hear that rhythm, you can then be better at expressing the rhythm through the words that are there. And the written and the silent reading can never produce that, I don't think.
Yeah, it has to be. It is an oral thing, definitely, and it's and it's that combination of heart and then articulation, just getting it out, speaking it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's our toffee for you.
That was great. That.
Yeah, I thought
That's two good ones.
far so good. Let's see. I've got these are two double page pieces from Fiona, and I'd rather you start another one, Chris, if you wouldn't mind. If you give us another reading.
I've got another one here. I've got another one I've got two that of well, I've got three of other poems. Oh, hang on, I'll put my goggles back on. This one's by it's just a bit shorter than the last one. It's not a long one, well, longer one. Don't worry, folks, I've got no Browning or Tennyson. We're not going to be here for hours.
Yes, we are.
No, you won't have to listen to me for hours reading a poem, though. This is a poem by one of my favourite authors, actually, a guy called Robert E. Howard, who was he was the creator of, everyone will know him as the creator of Conan the Barbarian. But he was a great poet. He really wrote some knockout poetry, and I'm going to read this one quickly. It's called Dreaming on Downs, and he wrote this in 1929. He's a bit of a tragic figure, as Bob Howard. He committed suicide. I think he was about 30. He was in his early 30s when he committed suicide. But he was what he could have done, But anyway, here we go. I marched with Alfred when he thundered forth to break the crimson standards of the Dane. I saw the galleys looming in the north and heard the oarlocks and the swords refrain. And far across the pleasant Wessex downs, change the page, the chanting of the spearmen broke the lyre, till where the black-thorn forest grimly frowns, we sang a song of doom and steel and fire. Death rode his pale horse through the dreaming sky, all through that long and red summer afternoon, and night and silence fell when silently the dead men lay beneath the cold white moon. Now Alfred sleeps with all the swords of yore, but o'er the downs a brooding shadow glides. Unstrangled flowers dream along the shore, and Guthrum's galleys rust beneath the tides. Now underneath this drowsy tree I lie, and turn old dreams upon my lazy knees, till ghostly giants fill the summer sky, and phantom oars awake the sleeping seas.
Quite beautiful, isn't it?
He was a great poet, and much underrated as a poet, but I think he again he was one of those writers who he wrote. He was orally in the sense that he heard the words, and as he heard them, he typed. But manically on his typewriter. But yeah, he was.
And you read that beautifully, I thought.
Apart from slip up turning over the pages.
Well, you see, while you were doing it, I separated mine. This is a 2-page piece from Fiona, so I put them together so that they didn't get lost or anything. But I've separated them now for reading purposes. So, have you got a favourite poet? If you were forced into a desert island nonsense pick, which would you be a poet that you would just automatically reach for?
Well, besides the two that I've read, besides Kipling and Howard are both superb. Funnily enough, I do have a very different kind of poet. I do have a soft spot for John Betjeman.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And I can do the first few stanzas of one of my favourite Betjeman poems, but I can't do the whole thing because I haven't got it in front of me. But it goes something like this. It's called The Village Inn, I think. The village inn, the dear old inn, so ancient, clean, and free from sin, true centre of our rural life, where Hodge sits down beside his wife and talks of Marx and nuclear fission with all a rustic's intuition. Oh, more than church or school or hall, the village inn's the heart of all. So spake the brewer's PRO, a man who really ought to know, for he is paid for saying so. I can't remember the rest, but that's not it. It's great. I love it.
At this point, somebody should be pouring out the big tankers of ale and singing songs well into the night. Yeah.
And another thing I used to do, and I used to try and going back to favorite poets, another one who I used to try and memorize a little bit, but I can't remember them, and I'll make a fool of myself if I try and recite them. But is William Blake?
Oh yeah.
And Blake's magnificent, and I think so I would have a collection of Blake. I think definitely if I was on a desert island, Absolutely. Tiger burning bright in the forests of the night. What immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? It's fantastic.
I decided to prove a point years ago with my own friends, and I recorded a 3-disc set of poems and said, that'll take you through any university course if you're interested. But if you listen to this, not because I'm reading it, because of the poems, of course, you won't go far wrong, and you'll love poetry at the end of it because each poem is so beautiful in itself, And that's why I say, how can these people say that all cultures are the same?
Well, when you said about a favorite, it's like, where do you begin? There's so many. There's so many.
You pick one. Oh, wait a minute, and then you've got this one and that one, and you just can't. You just can't.
Are you going to read one of yours, John?
Well, because I was in such a hurry to get the stream up and running, I'll need to go back into that collection there and find some of mine. But I'll read this one from Fiona here.
Yeah.
And then while you're reading yours, and we're still waiting on 42, I'll rumble through these collections and find a couple of my own. Okie doke. So when I recorded these things, I never ever thought for 1 minute that I would end up sitting here reading aloud poetry. it really came as a wonderful surprise to me when a couple of years back when I started dipping my toe in and mentioning poems to the audience, and suddenly it's delight. There were so many people in the stream who love poetry, and I wasn't expecting that, Chris. I really wasn't.
Well, I think you said it before. It's become a thing where people go, "Oh, poetry," Oh, it's like when you're at school and they say, "Oh, we're going to do this," you go, "Oh, God, poetry," and
Yeah,
then you suddenly, if you've got an open mind enough and you listen to it, you think, "Actually, that's bloody good. That I love that." And there's so many.
oh,
It's it's like when I think I mentioned this in the last stream, but I may have done when we first did Dickens at school. And I was like, oh God, it's good. We did Tale of Two Cities when I was doing my O levels. Thinking, oh, there's this big thick book. Oh bloody hell, I'm gonna have to go through this whole book, and it's fantastic.
yeah,
But once you start to get into it,
yeah,
you made the effort.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it was.
MYT is asking, are there any modern day poets? Well, I would say MYT, you're watching two of them right now, and we
I
had
think
one on who has just left us.
there are, and I think the thing is, it's like writing. The publishing industry has become a kind of sick giant, and the kind of things that are held up as the exemplars of what is good doesn't connect with most people anymore.
No,
Poetry isn't something. It's you see, I don't believe it's a highfalutin thing. I don't think it's something that's should be disconnected from ordinary people. It's for people, for ordinary people, and it was always that way. It was a
correct.
way of synthesizing life and communicating things like folk music.
Yes,
It's the same
yeah,
thing.
absolutely. No, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we're back to that tradition of around the fire, either inside the house or we go
Yeah,
further back, outside in the woods and all that stuff. Um, I know that I've got lots of fond memories of my great grandparents and grandparents sitting around the old coal fire, just talking, just talking, you know. But the people will long for that experience now.
yeah, yeah. Because that was the time when you'd have one uncle who would have a song that that would be his party piece, and
Yeah,
you'd have another an auntie or someone or an uncle or a cousin or someone would stand up and say the boy stood on the burning deck, and that would be
yeah,
their party piece, and someone
sure,
else would tell a scary story,
yeah,
so that it was all about that kind of connected oral tradition of people coming together and sharing these things together,
correct.
and it stay with you.
Yeah, very much so. And that's part of what's missing today,
Yeah,
you know. Right, I'll
go on.
try and do my best here for Fiona. This is a poem titled Colin. Right, let me get it over here. Colin. I love a man named Colin. He's a bit like Popeye. I am what I am. And a bit like Asterix, the Gaul. Short, a little wizard with age, but still full of vigour. He's a soft-hearted, sentimental fellow who can also be cantankerous and quarrelsome. Occasionally, when he's had a few too many, Colin gets maudlin and weeps in his cups. Blessed with the Irish temperament, he is, in equal measure, romantic and troublesome. Now in his 60s, Colin still gets barred from pubs. He never shies away from a scouse if he thinks he's in the right. And isn't that all the time? One day Colin receives an official letter. It's from his landlady, Miss Eads. His half-yearly property inspection is due. She's informing him that she will be visiting the premises the following week, Tuesday at 9 p.m. a.m. Beg your pardon. Colin calls her on the phone to negotiate a different time. I work shifts, says Colin. I'm asleep at that time. Can you make it in the afternoon? No, says Miss Eads. I'm scheduled due for 9 a.m. We need to choose a time that suits us both, says Colin, getting hot under the collar. An argy-bargy ensues. The landlady is adamant. In truth, she enjoys wielding petty power over her tenants. I will see you next Tuesday at 9 a.m., Mr. Flattery. I'll be bringing a police escort with me, so be sure to let us in. With that, she hangs up. On the morning in question, rat-a-tat-tat, Colin is roused out of a deep slumber. Swearing, he stumbles out of bed and flings open the door. Miss Eads and a policeman are standing on the doorstep. Well, get on with it then, Colin growls. She steps to one side to allow them. He steps to one side to allow them access. Do your damned inspection so I can get back to sleep. Miss Eads and the policeman enter his flat. Colin is standing in a small hallway, impatient, cross, and stark naked. Mrs. Flattery, you will kindly put on some clothes, she says, at the time looking studiously at the ceiling. No, I bloody well won't. Kindly put on some clothes. I won't kindly put on some clothes. I told you I'd be asleep at this hour, and I'm always asleep in the row. The copper tried hard not to laugh. He merely said, not much we can do about it. It's his home after all. Miss Eads did the fastest property inspection in her entire career. She opened the door to each room, poked her head in, glanced quickly about, and then proceeded, quick, smart, to leave the flat. All good. Thank you, Mr. Flattery. She left with the policeman in tow, to the sound of Colin slamming the door behind them. Now I can get back to sleep, he grumbled. Snuggled up in bed once more, he was soon snoring loudly back in the land of Nod. I love a man named Colin. He is very Irish, soft, gruff, vocal burr. Tattoos faded and blurred with the passage of time. Hair thinning on top, ponytail grey. A network of fine lines around his eyes, still bright with humour. Colin as character. When we catch up, he's always have a good laugh over a few beers. The two of us go back a long way. He reckons I'm a great Sheila. There's something pure about Colin and his principles. He holds fast to them. A chivalrous man of the old school, loyal and true. Colin loves me too.
Again. From the heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can picture that, can't you? Open the door, butt naked. Hey, you're coming in, come on. Yeah.
And it also, it just shows that poetry doesn't have to be this kind of rhyming couplets either.
No,
It's
this is free flow.
storytelling and free flow. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the word order that creates the beauty, of course, isn't it? Choice
And
of which words.
The picture making. It's you see it when you see the pictures. That's you're getting the right flow.
Well, I shall try my best to see if I can find one of mine. Which one's that? This one. There should be something on here. Dirty. Oh yeah. Okay, Chris, you go ahead and you read one of your pieces, and while you're doing that, I'll try and find.
Okay. Well, this one is called "When the Bells First Fell Silent," and it's about the closure of chapels in Wales and their reappropriation and their reuse. I'll just move it a bit closer to the light. I'm blind. When the bells first fell silent and the chapel doors closed, soon Jones, Williams, and Morgan were names nobody knows, and their graves slowly crumbled, cloaked with weeds and with mould. Gone the sound of the organ, with Welsh voices in song, gone the great congregation who once came as a throng. With the bells now long silent and the chapel doors closed, the old places of worship were auctioned and sold, and the strangers who took them were not of this fold. Gone the vicar and candle and the book on the stand, gone the faith and the feeling with the life of our land. For the folk became silent, too few made a stand, and on spires and church towers loudspeakers now hang, and the people that gather are not of this land. Not just church and old chapel, but the towns we once knew, and unless we awaken, then we'll be gone too. So that was that one. I see John's still searching, so I'll give you another short one quickly. This one's called In Memoriam. Stoke the fire to hold the darkness, as each day fades into night. Twilight falls on towns and cities, a modern Ephialtes blight. Now take a brand and call it memory. Raise that flame for all your kind. Learn the roll call of the fallen. Do not pass and pay no mind. In memoriam, the names remind us of the task that lies at hand for our people and their future in this, our sacred natal land. Are you there, John, or shall I carry on? I'll do another one. I've got a very small one. I'll just do quickly.
Well, I'm still searching
Still
here.
searching.
Yeah, I think the trouble has been that when I've had these discs out before, I've actually put them in the wrong boxes. So the contents doesn't quite match up to the poetry. And I think I've got one here, but you carry on, and I will be there.
I've got a very short
Oh,
one.
there's Rory.
I bet Rory's got a poem.
Good evening, John. Good evening, Chris.
Hello, Rory. How are you, sir?
Not too bad at all. Thank you. I was going to read a poem, if I may, John. Is that all right?
Yeah, well, you let.
No, let
You-
Rory go. Let Rory go. Good.
Well,
Good.
okay, you carry on then, Rory.
Right, well, I tell you what happened, John. I was looking through my bookshelves, which are nothing as good as Chris's there, but I found this book. Yeah, well, you can see that. But it's entitled. There you go. Byron's Poetical Works. So it was written by Lord Byron, who was quite sort of famous and infamous. And you know what? I've never read it before. I pulled it off my bookshelf, and it was given to my grandfather in 1913, so 110 years ago.
Well,
But anyway, so I opened it up, and I thought, well, let me read you the first poem. And it says, the Right Honourable Frederick, Earl of Carlisle, Knight of the Garter, etc., etc. That's typical Lord Byron. The second edition of these poems is inscribed by his obliged ward and affectionate kinsman. Anyway, the first one is entitled On the Death of a Young Lady. And it goes, hushed are the winds, and still the evening gloom. Not e'en a zephyr wanders through the grove, whilst I return to view my Margaret's tomb, and scatters flowers on the dust I love. Within this narrow cell reclines her clay. That clay where once such animation beamed. The king of terrors seized her as his prey. Not worth nor beauty have her life redeemed. Oh, could that king of terrors pity feel, or heaven reverse the dread decrees of fate? Not here the mourner would his grief reveal, not here the muse her virtues would relate. But wherefore weep? Her matchless spirit soars beyond where splendid shines the orb of day, and weeping angels lead her to those bowers where endless pleasures virtue's deeds repay. And shall presumptuous mortals heaven arraign, and madly godlike providence accuse? Ah, no, far fly from me attempts so vain. I'll ne'er submission to my gods refuse. Yet is remembrance of those virtues dear, yet fresh the memory of that beautiful face. Still they call forth my warm affection tear, still in my heart retain their wonted place. Well, apparently that was 1802 that was written. So I hope you like that one. The book, it's
Good old Byron, yeah.
yeah, good. I mean, the book is just, I mean, it's pages and pages and pages of it. Something that, yeah, I'll have to read one day, but there we go. I thought that might be interesting.
it is. Well, I've got one of mine. Finally, I finally found it. And that's what's wrong. I have put these discs away, and I put the contents in the wrong boxes. So when I look for number 5, it isn't what I think it should be, you know. But I have found one, and I hope you like it.
Well, John, if I could read another one whenever, I certainly could. I'll have to look them up though, because I said I've never actually read this book before, but over to you for now.
Okay, no. This is a poem I wrote sometime after 1993. It's simply called Grief. So here you go.
Is the loving heart and dries Grief destroys the loving heart and dries the passionate flow, fills the tearful mourning eye with pain that time will show. Grief distorts the memory kept and dims the inner light, hardens to the helping hand, blinds sympathetic sight. Grief consumes emerging hope, leaves only weighty doom, instead of dreamy future plans, only misery's wicked gloom. Grief plagues the quiet moments with frets of some lost phrase, drowned in pools of bitterness, optimism can't erase. So moving then along in time brings a measure of relief. Finally, the spirit overcomes the loneliness of grief.
Go.
Well said, sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
That came from the heart as well, didn't it, John?
Oh yes, it did. That was written after my wife passed away, of course. That's why I've referenced it to 1993. At some point after that, she died in 93. I don't know exactly when. It doesn't really matter, but at some time after that.
Was there any catharsis in that when you were writing it?
No, not really. No. I wrote another thing. It didn't start out the way it ended. It started out as a single poem. By that time, I had become an undergraduate. And the tradition was, first year undergrads in English, they would have this poetry competition. So I decided that I would try my hand at this, And being me, of course, I decided to take a genre and attempt an English sonnet with it. It turned out to be a sonnet cycle of 13 sonnets titled The Vampire Sonnets, and that helped, because what I realized was that I was wrong, and I still argue this today. I was wrong when I would say, genuinely say, I'd give anything to have her back for one more moment. But I was overlooking, in that one more moment, she'd been through that pain again. So who am I doing this for? Whose benefit is this? It's me being selfish, hanging on to something that I should be letting go. So that helped enormously, that particular thing. Although it doesn't seem as though it's any connection to me and Helen. But what I discovered was that no one had ever done this before. No one had ever applied the English sonnet to something as macabre as vampirism. And it led, believe it or not, it led to a whole load of music, and finally I ended up writing a 3-act musical play from that. That's what grew out of it over the years. So, but it did help me enormously. Yeah. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say it became the spark.
Yeah, it did. It was that, because believe it or not, at the same time, my big mate Jerry, his wife died in 1992, and then my wife died in 1993, and he would always say what I would give to have her back for one more minute. But in writing that vampire thing, I realized, no, you bring her back, then she's coming back to what she just left, which is pain. And well, God knows how painful pain is, but you're asking her to come back. You're demanding that she comes back. So whose benefit is it for? Is it for love's benefit, or is it selfish? And to me, it seems selfish, and it still does. And I used to say that to Jerry. I says, no. I says, that's what's wrong with this hero and this anti-hero in these poems. He will not let her go at any cost. And that's wrong. We have to learn to let our loves go when it comes their moment in time. So that's what came out of that.
John.
Yes.
Go on, Rory.
On that topic, I just found another poem in this book. It's entitled "To Woman." Could I read that one for you?
Carry on.
Okay. It goes. Experience might have told me that all must love thee who behold thee. Surely experience might have taught thy firmest promises are naught. But placed in all thy charms before me, all I forget but to adore thee. O memory, thou choicest blessing, when joined with hope, when still possessing. But how much cursed by every lover, when hope is fled and passion is over. Woman, that fair and fond deceiver, how prompt are striplings to believe her. How throbs the pulse when first we view the eye that rolls in glossy blue, or sparkles black, or mildly throws a beam from under hazel brows. How quick we credit every oath, and hear her plight, the willing troth. Fondly we hope 'twill last for aye, when lo, she changes in a day. This record will forever stand. Woman, thy vows are traced in sand. I thought that was good music.
I think he had a bit of a bad experience.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, haven't we all? Haven't we all? Right. You see, someone is asking for a poem that I did before, but I'm going to have to sort this out at some point in time, casually. Find out, get these lists into the right discs so that I don't have this confusion. But I can put on another one of mine if you want to hear another one of mine.
Yes.
Yeah, carry on, John.
Where are we? Bum, bum, bum. Oh, glory. What happens with these? Where are we? See, that's the other thing I've noticed. When you start looking for things, they're gone. Yeah, they're gone. So where is the folder with these poems in them? I was going to put something else on tonight. I was going to ask for everyone's indulgence. My idea was that we would go through the stream. I'd play the outro music, but we wouldn't finish the stream. And I put this other piece on because it's long as a kind of extra for anyone who wants to stay and listen to it. I need to get your indulgence on that one.
Oh, we'll indulge you, John.
Well, let me see if I can. Where is this going?
What's happened to 42? He's coming on.
He's previously tied up. He did explain himself. He's coming on later. right?
Oh, okay.
He's coming on
Well,
later.
We'll excuse him for now then.
Yeah. Right. So let me see if I can just get this poem. What is it? 6. Just let me check it first. No. Wrong again. I'm giving up. I'm giving up. I can't find them. They're all mixed up. I'm sorry about that, folks. They're all mixed up. You'll just have to be patient. I'll put this thing on at the end and I know where it is. And if you don't mind, we'll do. Oh, there he is. There, he's with us. He's waiting patiently in me bringing him on. There he is now. Good evening, 42. 42. Geekaboo.
I'm intimidated by the avatar now. I'm going to have to go and do some pull-ups.
We can't hear you, 42.
Put on the microphone, my friend. Or fix your volume, whatever it is that's causing it. Yeah. He may be jumping into the toilet or something, who knows? I don't know.
Would you like me to read another one, John?
I would dearly love you to read another one there, Chris. Oh, he's gone. He'll be back.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'll read another. I'll read the one that. This is the one I read to my friend.
Oh yes.
And this is by Wilfred Owen.
All right.
And
great poet, Wilfred Owen.
Sorry.
I said great poet.
Someone still was yelling out and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Din through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face, like a devil sick of sin. If you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, bitter as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest, to children under some desperate glory, the old lie, dulce et decorum est, pro patria more. It's obviously a kind of an anti-war poem in many ways, but it could only have been written by someone who experienced that, you know. And
well, yeah, no, absolutely, Chris. My grandfather, he was wounded on the first day of the Somme in 1916. Went over the top with just under 800 men and came back with less than 200. So yeah, he knows all about that stuff, and I think Wilfred Owen makes some good points in that poem.
Yeah, there's that sort of the flower of Europe on all sides.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you with us, 42?
He was, briefly.
He was. His avatar's there. And while we're waiting on 42, let me answer this question yet again. No one, including me, has banned Dawn Browning on this channel. There is something technically going on that prevents her from appearing. Scott's Armour was good enough to send me a link. Oh, he's having some problems with his audio. And my son had a look at it tonight, but we still haven't got anywhere. So Ragnar, I would not ban anyone unless I was pushed into a corner to do it. And that good lady has never been banned on here. I don't know what's happening. She used to be able to appear in the chat, and then suddenly it stopped. I will get my son over the weekend to have yet another look at this piece of software and see if we can put an end to this particular difficulty. So I hope that explains that. Okay. Now, I don't know why that's happening, Toffee. There's something weird going on. This has been going on for over a week now. People's comments keep getting removed. It's not me. No, it's not me. It's nothing to do with me. That's not my style at all. So I don't know what's happening. It's obviously, and I have put in a complaint to StreamYard. I might add that on about Don Browning not being able to become part of the chat, but can appear on the stream, which is most puzzling. So, sorry about that, folks. Well, she was on the other night, Ragnar. She came on and we spoke briefly about it, and she knows it isn't me. I wouldn't do that to her. There's no reason why I would do that. But I have no idea as to why it's happening. And it's the same as this. Comments going off air. Hello, 42.
Good evening, John. How's
Good
yourself?
evening. Not so bad. I didn't have a great afternoon and early evening, but I think I'm over the worst.
Yeah.
He's here. Excellent. And we can hear him. Marvelous.
Oh, this
Well-
technology is brilliant whenever you can get it to work, whenever you
Oh,
can.
yeah.
But we persevered and we overcame.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to give you a little bit of a chance to settle down there, 42.
Yes.
Right? Catch your breath and all the rest of it. So I'm not going to throw you into the deep end by asking you to read anything. I'm going to attempt to read the much requested The Beginnings by Kipling. Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. The Beginnings. It was not part of their blood. It came to them very late, with long arrears to make good when the English began to hate. They were not easily moved. They were icy willing to wait till every count should be proved ere the English began to hate. Their voices were even and low. Their eyes were level and straight. They were neither sign nor show when the English began to hate. It was not preached to the crowd. It was not taught by the state. No man spoke it aloud when the English began to hate. It was not suddenly bred. It will not swiftly abate. Through the chill years ahead, when time shall count from the date that the English began to hate.
Yeah, I like that one. And the other one is the Wrath of the Awakening Saxon. I think is another
Yeah.
good one by Kipling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. That has been asked for many, many times, even when I'm not doing a poetry stream. John, you gonna?
Kipling, year on year, is voted. You know, when the public are asked to vote on their favourite poems, it's more
Oh,
often than
yeah.
not Kipling.
He always comes up.
Much to the wrath and ire of the modern establishment.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, have you settled in 42?
I have indeed. I've got myself. I've got past all my flapping and fluffing, and I'm now good.
Good.
I seen a little bit of the start of the stream, up until the bit where Keith did "If," and then that's whenever I had to go and do some driving.
Okay.
But yes, are you feeling a bit better about yourself, John, from this afternoon's escapades?
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened. I was fine up until the middle of the afternoon, then suddenly I took a shivers. I was frozen. I couldn't heat up. I put this cardigan on, and I decided to go out to the back of the house and sit in the sun, try and heat myself up. And I needed a packet of cigarettes, so I thought I'll sit out at the back for a while. I'll get myself heated up. I'll go for a packet of cigarettes. Well, that didn't happen because I didn't heat up. I was sitting there chittering all the time. And then disaster struck when I tried to get out of this lounger. And I lost my balance, went crashing into my garden hut. And I don't know what damage I've done to the hut. And at that point, I said, there's no way you're going to walk to the shop for a packet of cigarette. You'll make do with what you've got. And then I came in here and my son came home, and then I fell asleep as he was trying to fix this problem with Dawn. But I think the sleep helped enormously. But then when I wakened up, it was about 10 minutes before the stream was due to start. So I had to rush about trying to get material together, you know. So I feel a lot better. Thank you very much.
The moral of that story, John, is don't go sunbathing before a live stream.
It's not my style to sunbathe, Rory. I like to sit in the shade. But I just thought it might get rid of these shivers which had come upon me out of nowhere. And I've no idea why that started up. It might just simply be one of the many things that happens to you when you're old. I don't know. But anyway, I do feel a lot better. And thanks everyone for asking. So,
Would you like
wait.
the poem?
Yeah, we wait with bated breath. 42.
Right. This one's called "Feminism Left Ukraine." Feminism left Ukraine on the dawn of war and the onset of pain. Society divided to its core. When the borders became closed to men, those aged 16 to 60 must remain. Women and children to the lifeboats once again. That's when feminism left Ukraine. The international sisterhood lost its voice when feminism left Ukraine. They could not argue for a woman's choice that only men's blood would drain. In that world of mud, blood, and pain, only men you shall see, because feminism left Ukraine when it required responsibility. And that's my take on what's going on in Ukraine.
Well said, sir.
When did you write that one? 42. Now that I've unmuted myself.
I wrote that about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, in preparation for this stream.
Well, that's nice.
Mm.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And I take it you're as pleased as I am as to how well these poetry streams are going down.
Oh, I am absolutely delighted. the big thing about this, and what I want all the listeners to take away from this is, poetry isn't some highfalutin thing that belongs to the aristocrats and the educated people. It belongs to the working class people. And I would also say that, like, in the last 3 weeks, I've assisted 2 people with letters of complaints. And there's going to come a time in your life whenever you're going to need to put your thoughts on a page to put a proper complaint on about something or whatever. And this is where writing poems that don't really mean anything or aren't overly important, this is where their place comes in, because if the first time that you're putting your thoughts down in a coherent manner to do a complaint is doing that complaint, you haven't had the practice, you haven't got the expertise, you haven't sharpened your you haven't sharpened your blades, and whenever you're trying to combat the establishment or anything like that, what you need to do in your letters of complaint is weaponize the English language and send it in the battle. So, for the love of God, get some practice before it comes your time to do that.
Yeah. The most important thing that I've always told people is poetry needs to be heard. It's not something that you should really silently read. It should be read aloud, even if you're the only person in the room for it to.
Yeah.
Well, part of my writing process is to read it back as I'm writing it, and and out loud. So I know this in my head. This sounds like it rhymes and flows and it's got the right amount of syllables roughly, and it'll work. But until you've heard that out loud, preferably looking at a mirror and have it reflect back to yourself, you don't know what you've got in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I went out of my way to prove that to my friends Laura and Lorraine and my big pal Jerry, because when I wrote those vampire sonnets, I gave them out as pieces of paper with words on, and each one of them came back and said they couldn't understand it, it was too difficult. So what I did, that's how it started, this. So I thought, no, I won't let it go. I then decided to record it, and once they heard the recordings, all fell into place, and now it became simple. Now they all got it, proving my point that you should hear poetry.
Well, you know, John, when I was at school in the 70s, we would always read poetry out loud in English lessons.
Yeah, likewise.
It's not a normal thing to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to happen anymore for some bizarre reason.
Part of that reason, Rory, is simply because English literature has been put to the back of the queue. I mean, one of the things, I don't know if you're aware of this, but recommended reading lists no longer exists. Any pupil sitting at an O grade or a higher can choose any piece. Whereas in my time and your time, I expect, and Chris as well, there was a reading list that you picked from.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I had a school library, thankfully, that you could go to and pick up whatever books you wanted.
Yeah. But that was all dropped, and it was part of the collapse of the standards that used to exist in schools.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it sort of ties into that ethos of everything is equally valid now. And so it doesn't matter what you speak or read, or everything has an equal validity, and of course it doesn't.
No, of course not. Like we said earlier, How can it?
It's
But
even
the other-
more.
the-
It's even more nefarious than that. Up until round about 1972, 1973, teachers went into school with the intention of making the children think and understand. And somewhere in mid-70s, that changed to an effort to make the children regurgitate what was put in front of them as the book stopped being something you could think about and discuss. This is the version of what you will understand from this book. This is what you will understand from this poem. And whenever you start to look at literature, poetry, all that, there's a lot of different opinions from different writers, and they can't be having you reading different writers and what they want and having you actually think about it and heaven forbid come to your own conclusions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The other thing, 42, of course, was the abolition of most grammar schools.
Now,
which
can I just
which
clarify
basically-
here? Can I clarify here, Rory, for my sake?
Yes, John.
When
Yes.
you say grammar school, are you referring to a higher secondary education school?
Yes, absolutely. We had to pass an exam to get into.
Yes, academic selection.
Right.
Yeah, and again, that just stopped anyone of more than average intelligence having a better education.
Well, the other thing is, if you're teaching a class, you can only really teach to the ability of the slowest student.
Yeah.
Now, what academic selection did was it put the brighter students together, it put the slower students together, and they had two different styles of writing. Between in first and second form, now year 8 and year 9, for some reason, because we don't want to disassociate primary school and secondary school. If a student did well and they could then aspire to getting into a grammar school before they started doing their actual exams. And what we have now is a system whereby all kids go to the same school and they will ensure that there are slow kids in every class, because we're not going to allow the ones with the capability to excel.
No, that's called the mixed ability class. Instead of streaming like they used to do, it's now mixed ability. And you're quite right. You as a teacher, you're held back by the 8 or 9 or possibly more kids sitting at the back who could barely read and write.
Yeah, I think because I went to I passed my 11 plus, went to a grammar school, and I came from a working class background. My dad was a factory worker, but when I went to that school, the standard of the staff were a lot of the staff were ex-servicemen, World War II servicemen, and it was just incredibly high, and I loved it. I loved every aspect of it, and it was just an opportunity to really kind of be tested and to push yourself, and and be introduced by people who were passionate in what they were doing. They were absolutely well versed in it, and it was just a chance to really kind of run with it. It was so yeah.
The reason I asked you, Rory, about this grammar school thing, in Scotland, it was called, in my day, it was called junior secondary school and senior secondary school. The difference was we were constantly told the best we could do in life was to become a tradesman. Now,
To be honest, John, I think these days that's not such a bad idea.
No, I know, but the point is, obviously there were people in the school who were capable of much more, and I'm not saying I was one of them at that age, because I probably wasn't, right? But it then changed to comprehensive,
Right. Okay.
and now it's gone. But I was lucky, because as I was entering that junior secondary school, we got a brand new English teacher straight out of college. We got 2 art teachers straight out of college, a music teacher straight out of college, and every one of those teachers had an enormous effect on me personally. Because, as you say, they're coming in and they're ignoring all this junior, senior secondary school stuff.
In what way did they have an effect on you, John?
Well, I can remember still the very first poem that was ever read to me by my English teacher, Mr. O'Donnell. I don't remember all of the poem, but I always remember the last stanza, which says, "Fools, for I also had my hour, one far fierce hour and sweet. There was cries about my ears and palms before my feet." And I thought, when I heard that, I want to be able to do that someday.
Good for you, John.
Inspired me.
See, what you're talking about there, John, is the fact that you had people who were capable, who were teaching you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the idea of the system was that you have it was secondary modern, wasn't it? And then it became comprehensives and so on. But if you had the right people, you know, then they would inspire, and they would.
Yeah.
For those who wanted to engage, and that opportunity was there.
Yes, it was.
But what we have now is a system of melange where everything's sort of melded together, and you know, and as 42 was saying, you know, you have
bring down everything's brought down to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
I mean, the music teacher was the same. One of the first things she started was when she was horrified to discover the school did not have a choir. So she picked boys out to become part of the choir. She also started, after the school was finished, guitar lessons. That's how I got my start, was through this music teacher. You know, she's sitting there banging on the piano and we're strumming along because she had led us into it. Again, hugely influential in my life, obviously. And the art teachers, well, it gave me a visual appreciation that was there. I know it was there when I look back, but they awakened it and developed it and encouraged me in that line. So it's not really a surprise that years later I become a qualified photographer.
I was in my school choir, John, and they took all the new boys in and got them to sing notes from the piano.
Yeah.
And if you got them right, then they invited you to join the choir.
Yeah.
And if you got them wrong, they didn't. My brother, who's 3 years older than me, I wish he'd told me about that, because I would definitely have got them all wrong, because I never wanted to be in the school choir. But there we go.
I've got to answer DJ here. DJ, when I was talking about you and the music that you produce, that was not an insult that I was giving you. I think what you do is far above these black rappers. Yours has meaning.
John, the difference between what DJ does and the commercial rap is, whenever you listen to DJs, you can hear every word.
Yes, for a start, and it
Right.
has meaning. And
Right,
it has
yes,
meaning.
but the reason why you can't hear every word from the commercial rap is because for every 10 words, 2 of them are of value, and they do it that quick that it skips over that fact. And the reason why they use so many profanities is because you can throw a swear word in the middle of any sentence and it doesn't change the context of that sentence, but it will balance out your syllable
Yeah.
count.
Sure.
It's a it's a bit of it's a big bit of a cheat, and what DJ does is not the same thing.
No, and I never meant to imply that it was DJ. I think what you do is far, far better than any of these things that I've heard from other folk in other directions. So please accept that as a truth. Okay, Chris, have you got any more poems that you would like to read, or will we get 42 to do another one?
Let's listen to 42 because it's
Okay.
Right. Here we go. This is the second poem I was attempting to write for this stream, and whenever you think, well, what a poem is, it's something that you've written down, took some time, fixed with, edited, and then present either in writing or in spoken word. And I haven't quite done that. But I do have the basis of what I want to say and the collection of thoughts. I'm gonna wing it. So this is the first hearing of it, and it's probably going to be called The Working Classes. The working class people are not tied to a geography or hold on, whoa. Right, start again. The working class people are not tied to a geography or a job title. It is more of a mindset. It is a group of people who shun the management class because they have no desire to be part of it. They know the way to advance in life is by working more hours or maybe less conventional shifts, which will pay them their wages. These men and women are natural pacifists because they know it will always be their people who are sent to the front line. However, when they hear the drum rattle and the summons to battle, they gladly go forward, not because they hate what is in front of them, but because they so dearly love what is behind them. And then, when they get a minute to take stock of what they actually have, they see their jobs sent out to Taiwan, China, and South Korea. They see their high streets devoid of shops, outsourced to shopping malls and Amazons. And in their ruined husks, there sit shops of charity, pawn, and bookmakers. They see schools that are full of children that do not look like them. And when they dare to mention to the management class who have overseen this madness, they are met with derision and slander, and once again kicked to the curb by the society that had already shunned them. And that's about it. I'll listen to that back. It needs a polish.
Well, you can always do that at some later point.
Yeah.
But it's there. I mean, there's a skeleton there.
Oh, yeah. It needs a little bit of work, but
sure.
No, but you made some very good points there, 42, in that poem. That was impressive.
Well, thank you.
I love that line there about not what's before them, but what's behind them.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. I thought that was very good. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, but what was behind them is now being stolen away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Does anybody mind if I play another recording? It won't be one of mine, so it'll be a poem.
Yep.
Is that
Go on.
Go
okay,
ahead.
Paul?
Yeah, go on, John.
Give you all a wee rest, eh? I'm not sure what we've got. We'll try track 7, whatever that is. I don't know. I will definitely have to go back and sort this problem out with these poems. Right, there we go.
Brings to mind when summer days
Oh.
are left.
This is one of mine. Summer days. Very simple.
What place of pleasure springs to mind when summer days are left behind? As autumn draws her chilly horn o'er gloaming fields and sunlit glens, where green things eclipse the summer ends. Do you see wi' inner eye flocks of swans take the sky, with their necks outstretched like lens of white enamelled pipes, tracing a flag of blue trimmed with stripes? Or perhaps you might have found some place where your hopes abound, amid nature's all busy haunt as she goes about her endless chore. You gasp to watch birds wing and soar. As for me, I must confess, to see our hills all neatly dressed, like a bonny skirting lassie parading in her fancy frock, leaves me so I cannae talk. So where have they gone? The blue lit skies all puffed with song. So impatient heart, be patient then. Let nature snooze to come again, skelping through the melting snow, to banish winter at a blow.
There you go, folks.
Beautiful. I like
That was-
that
That was quite
reverb.
beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, folks. Thank you. Are you going to do a poem, Chris?
I can do. Would you? I can do one of mine if you like.
Yes, I would like that. And then we'll ask Rory to do one. And then I believe 42 has one that has been sent to him.
Yep.
And he can read that one.
This is one which I wrote about a year or so ago when it was related to something we were talking about at the time about which has become a kind of a sort of a common theme now. We were never asked. So it relates to sort of contemporary issues, if you like.
Obviously, yeah. Yeah.
So we were never asked. The folk are restless, ill at ease, beneath the heavy chains. They have no representative, no advocates acclaim. Their ancestors are mocked and cursed. Their whiteness is a stain. Oh, we were never asked, is whispered in their pain. No man nor woman of these isles, no child nor one at all. From Caithness to Dumnonia, they did not make that call. They did not choose this ending. They did not choose to fall. We were never asked, is the writing on the wall. When the years are counted for the living and the dead, then history will remember those who stood their ground instead, gathering together, knowing they had been misled. And when they took dominion, we were never asked, they said. That was that one.
Excellent.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. You know, that actually, you know something there, Chris. My reaction to that is that poem deserves a book. It should be a preface to a book or a set of essays.
Well, yeah, it's just a bit of old doggerel, you know.
We're not having any of that stuff. We're not having any of that stuff. Anyway, 42. Would you like to do a reading of this poem that was said to you?
I will indeed. Let's just 1 second. I need to cough.
Yeah.
Get that out of the way before I start. Here we go. Right. It's called The Greatest Journey. The greatest journey that all must take begins and ends with a single heartbeat, an unknown path, an unknown fate, a team effort, or a solo feat. The highest peaks of pure elation, the deepest waters of dark depression, tears both sweet and bittersweet, that outward pilgrimage to our last confession. The further we travel, the more we look back, but not in anger, but with remorse. We hope at least God turns to silver, gold turns to silver, time never sleeps, that unstoppable, much feared final peace. Let clarity be our final breath, let it not be wasted on petty regrets. Rejoice in those we leave behind and embrace the odyssey we're yet to find. That was by Sansom Communion.
Very good, Sansom.
Yeah.
Don't know why he didn't come on and didn't read it himself, but never mind. At least we heard it. That's the main thing. And you did a
That was
good
good.
job there.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I tell you what, we've had some corkers tonight.
Absolutely. And there's been really good ones as well. I'd like to read this one here. No, you're going to read, Rory, and then I'm going to read this last poem from Fiona from Aussie Land.
Okay, John. Well, again, I'm just looking through this book in front of me by Lord Byron, and I thought, as the penultimate poem, I thought I'd read this out because it's entitled "On Parting." Okay, so here we go. The kiss, dear maid, thy lip has left, shall never part from mine, till happier hours restore the gift, untainted back to time. Thy parting glance, which fondly beams, an equal love may see. The tear that from the eyelid streams can weep no change in me. I ask no pledge to make me blessed in gazing when alone, nor one memorial for a breast whose thoughts are all thine own. Nor need I write to tell the tale, my pen were doubly weak. Oh, what can idle words avail, unless the heart could speak? By day or night, in weal or woe, that heart no longer free must bear the love it cannot show, and silent ache for me. That's from 1811, apparently. Anyway, there we go. Right, final contribution, John, over to you.
Good old Lord Byron.
John, you're muted.
Thanks,
Oh.
42. Because I was all of this carry on today, I never got taking my herbal drink, so I'm coughing a bit more than I should be. So all right, I'll try and get through it. It's called The Fan Club. Wendy and I bought our tickets and waited in anticipation for the special night to arrive. Our favourite band on tour again after many years finally, here we are. The venue is massive. The tension of anticipation palpable. Jammed together, jostling for space, strangers smile at one another, joke and laugh. The camaraderie of fandom. At last, the lights start to dim. Wendy and I squeal and hug each other tight. The band comes on stage with a great roar of excitement. The crowd surges forward without preamble. The band breaks into their first song, a well-known hit. They give it their all. This is followed by one song after another. But oh, it soon becomes apparent that their voices have lost their strength and pitch, have passed their used-by dates. No longer can the musicians leap convincingly about the stage anymore. The rebellious rage that was once their trademark has now been tamed. And brooding romantic angst that used to embody the lead singer is nowhere to be seen. But being loyal and devoted fans, we turn a blind eye to all these human feelings. After all, we are getting older too. The muses themselves, wrapped up in their celebrity status, insulated in a time warp, continue to believe they're every bit as good as they used to be. For them, the art of reinvention was never a consideration. Married to the band, rock stars to the end. The crowd starts to sway as one as we close our eyes in ecstasy, knowing all the words to all the lyrics, having shared in the zeitgeist when the band was at their peak. Our rites of passage, interwoven with these timeless hits, render them oh so meaningful. Decades have passed, and the band continues to make its comeback tours, its last, never to be repeated, final tour but one. We dig deep and pay exorbitant prices for our precious tickets. On stage, under the harsh lights, the band members posture, sweat, and pant, belting out their beloved hits. It's true that they have lost their age. But do the fans care? Not a bit. We love them anyway. Remember all those glory days. We cheer them on. I really like that.
Whose is that, John?
That's Fiona Ross.
Is that another Fiona? Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah, the lady from Australia.
Yeah, true words there. True words.
Absolutely. I just like
I've seen a few of those bands.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah. And that was something that used to bother me, not that it ever happened. You know, I used to say to myself, do you really want to become, a big star, and then you're going to spend the next 25 years singing the same songs over and over again? To me, that seemed a nightmare.
Well, Roger Waters has just got in trouble recently.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That he sang, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
For goodness sake. So there we go. You never know.
Well, I think that's partly due to people who don't understand the work or are prepared to look at it in a slightly deeper way. It's all very superficial, you know.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
ridiculous.
there's a lot of people that currently spend their days searching through old things to find old works of any type to find something to be offended about.
Oh, I'm sure you're right there, 42.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
crazy.
how pathetic is that?
Well,
Real.
42, I actually attended the original Pink Floyd concert in Earl's Court in 81, where he first sang those words, or the band sang those words. And everybody loved it, you know? But that was
Yeah.
40 years ago.
Well, again, very often music, whether it's a solo or a band, is usually fixed to some period of your own life. And of course, that period of your own life, you move on from that, and that also then is reflected in your attitude to the music that perhaps you once loved and perhaps no longer love, or see in the same light. You know, that's how I feel about it. 42. Have you got another poem?
I'm sure I could. Yeah. Right. Just give me a minute to think. Yes. Right. Trying to think of one that would be suitable for this stream.
That in itself sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Be careful, 42.
Right. Is Arpa in the chat?
Who?
Yes, Arpa. Real piece of work. Right. This is a poem called "The Man of War." RPOW, which means real piece of work. I seen a picture of his grandfather who served on the HMS Belfast, and I wrote this poem called "The Man of War." Let me take you on a journey from command deck to the keel, down through all the nooks and crannies of this warship built of steel. Judge her strength not by her armour, but look behind each bulkhead door. They are at their battle stations, and they are the men of war. With the frigid depths beneath them, they sail out to meet the foe. They stand alone together, where lesser men would fear to go. Rookies look to the old hands, who'd seen it all and worse before, than the never-ending process that creates the men of war. The ship might creak or shudder under bombardment or monsoon, but these men would never falter. From fear they are immune. Thoughts of Davy Jones's locker may have been there from days of yore, but this is the Royal Navy, and they are the men of war.
Great. Right, I just got a
That was great,
communication from Sensum now. However, as
That
it's
was
getting,
a good one, 42.
yeah,
Thank
it
you.
was. Yeah,
Is
it
that,
was.
I'm presuming that's the HMS Belfast, which is anchored
Yes.
on the River Thames.
Yes, which was built about 3 miles from where I live.
A friend of mine had his 21st birthday party aboard that ship, which I went to, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe how steep those staircases
Stairs.
there. stairs they have. Yeah, crazy,
Yeah.
absolutely crazy.
When you were reading that there, 40 Jar, I could hear in my head Hearts of Oak. You know, that's the old Navy songs coming into my head there. Just
Yeah.
really evocative.
Sea shanties. Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
need.
Well, I did 3 about the HMS Belfast because, well, I live in Belfast and I was writing about boats at the time. And that actually, when we started off to do one, I seen the picture of our pals' grandfather. And whenever I seen the picture, I went, yeah, that photograph that needs a poem. So I started off to write that. And then he had told me that he served on the HMS Belfast. And then that sent me down that sort of track. So it did that one first, I think, and then the one that should precede it, and then the one that came after it, which talked about if you're ex-Navy, I'm not sure if the other services can do it, but you can request to get your ISIS scattered, and they'll do that either out at sea or off the back of the HMS Belfast. They've got a wee chapel and all, and they do the service there.
Excellent.
Wow.
Excellent. That's great. Right. I'm going to bring it up again just to make sure everyone's going to be happy with this. My intention is 42. You may not have heard this. When we close the stream or draw it to a close, I'll play the outro music as usual, but I'm not going to put the stream off. I have a C.S. Lewis piece that I would like to bring on, and we don't have to listen to it all. Okay? It's called The Screwtape Letters. Some of you may know it and some of you may not know it. But I don't want it to get in the way of such a brilliant stream as what we have had. I'd like to have it as like a separate extra thing for those who want to hear it. So if anyone wants to go off after the outro music, I won't be offended, folks. Okie doke. Is that okay with you guys up here on the stream?
All good.
Okie doke. Right. Where are we? We need one more, Chris.
Do you want me to do another one? Okay.
Yes, I want, and then we'll get Rory to do one, and 42 to do one, and at that point, I'll close the stream as I have already described. I'll play the outro music, but the stream will still be live. Okay.
Okay. Well, you'll be very glad, folks, to hear this is a very short one. This is one I wrote. Well, back in the 1980s, so this is very early. So it is a bit of juvenilia. But it was published at the time in this little book.
Yeah.
So it's a long time ago. I wrote it on Good Friday, so it was a time when I was sort of coming to grips with faith, and well, I'll read it and you can make your own.
Yeah. Please do.
Tiny print, so I'm really going to have to hold up to the light. It's called Christus. On the empty beach, a footprint in the sand, last sign of humanity where the sea confronts the land, and the withered grass whispers mournfully as the spirits of lost sailors cry, in the voice of gulls so scornfully, through the storm-tossed winter's sky. He stood upon the beach as well as mountains in the wind, and listened to the tolling bell for those who came and sinned, leading there to death, upon the wood he's pinned. So on this empty, saddened stretch, where in its fury foams the sea, I wander on, a lonely wretch, a piece of driftwood, faithless, free. There we are. Got one.
Lovely. Amazing. You can make art from almost anything, can't you?
It was it was just one of those that, young man angst. That's what it was.
We've all been there, Chris. Okay, Rory, it's your turn now. If you can pick a smallish, reasonably sized poem to finish up your contribution.
Right. Well, thank you, John. I found a small one here. It's entitled "Translation from Horace." Justum et tenacium propositae virum. Here we go. The man of firm and noble soul, no factious clamours can control. No threatening tyrant's darkling brow can swerve him from his just intent. Gales the warring waves which plough, by Auster on the billows spent, to curb the Adriatic main, were all his fixed, determined mind in vain. I, and the red right arm of Jove, hurtling his lightnings from above, with all his terrors there unfurled, he would unmoved, unawed behold, the flames of an expiring world, again in crashing chaos rolled, in vast promiscuous ruin hurled, like light his glorious funeral pile, still dauntless midst the wreck of earth he would smile.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, that leaves you to finish up the official part of the live stream 42. And then I'll bring on this Screwtape Letters extract after the music, of course.
I was talking there and it was muted.
Oh, that's okay. I've been doing that on and off all
Yep.
night.
Right, okay. This one's called My God. My God does not live in a church where pews squeak and people perch. My God lives in the soil, the water, and the air. My God is eternal. My God will always be there. My God requires no one on my behalf to intercede. My God talks to me directly, so the lessons I heed. My God talks to me softly. I hear my God every day. My God creates visions in the clouds to show me the way. My God has rules for me that number just one. Respect humanity in all you have done. For the time will come when I'm covered in sod, and I will at last be at peace with my God.
Excellent. Let's finish off with a thought,
great.
and it's just a thought to be put into your mind for some future discussion. Don't you think it would be a great idea if we made a collection of poems and put them together in an anthology?
I think that's a superb idea.
Yes, that is definitely a good idea.
Right. I'll leave you responsible for that one then, Chris, shall I?
We'd sell at least 4 copies.
Exactly. If we count the women in our lives, it might actually be 8.
Oh, Chris, you're missing a trick. Everybody is getting one for their birthday and for Christmas.
Yeah, and the Christmas is yet to come.
Yes, oh yes. Yeah, and the other kids can have them. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just a thought. While we're all together and we're talking and thinking poetry, it's just a thought.
Yep. I definitely think that's a good idea. The one question.
We'll leave it at that 42 as an idea to be further discussed, because we can always create a live stream again where we can talk about this idea rather than reading aloud poetry as well. Yeah, it's always there.
Yep,
There's so much talent on our side. That's what
that
I
there
always.
is.
All right, I'm going to bring in the outro music. So let me explain what's happening here, folks, just in case there's any confusion. I'm going to play the outro music, and when it's finished, the stream will continue onward. And I'll bring on this recorded extract that I've made, and I hope you like it. If you don't like it, you can leave. I will not be miffed or upset. It's pretty late for some folk at this point. So, let me say in advance, as I always do, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until Tuesday, 9 o'clock. Goodbye for now. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and remember, I'm not finishing up.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim, hides a fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart. Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
But love's much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow
But an important
in
one.
the eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, have some consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
All together now.
But we're much more
So much more
than we can
than we
know.
can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow
But an important glow.
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow.
So there we go, folks. That's the official stream over. I'm now going to bring on this other piece. And if anyone wants to leave, I will not be offended. Not in the least. I'm just using the excuse for an audience. It's not the whole piece, so don't get carried away. It's only an extract. And what I have done here is I added material to it in the way of a song. So enjoy what I'm going to play here, and then I will wrap up the live stream.
My dear Wormwood, as you are well aware, I was promoted to Junior Tempter to the head of the department. This descended position comes with it a membership of the delightfully wicked Hellfire Club. I was in there recently, and you'd be quite surprised to know just who holds entry to that disgraced realm. On stage was one of those electric groups. They go by the name The Fallen, a most unoriginal name in my opinion. But considering just who was up there on stage, it is a name thoroughly earned. I thought you might like to hear a little something of home, and ask them to play that old favourite down here, Hail to the Lord, by one of our most admired and revered sinners, John Davidson. Hail to the Lord, who reigns in hell. His will is done on earth as well. We can't be seen, we don't exist. That's how we like it, makes us so hard to resist. Hail to the King, the Lord of Night, shadow and fear that feed on fright. We're marching strong, our banners bold. That's how we like it. You have no will to withhold. Shadows of war concealed in words of peace. Blood, death, and tears are what they mean. Because war's heart and soul, and is paid in food. While we gather the souls, praise the Lord, praise the Lord. Shadows of war concealed in words of blood, death, and tears are what they hear. Because war, heart and soul, and there's pain in when we gather the soul. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord. Hail to the Lord who reigns in hell. His will is done on earth as well. We can't be seen, we don't exist. That's how we like it. Makes us so hard to resist.
So there you go, folks. It's actually an hour long in total, but I'm not going to play the whole hour. That's just a bit much to ask of you.
Well, all I can say, John,
Yeah.
is if you're hailed and revered by the Lord, in nomine Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti.
Amen. Well, it was a tempting thing to do, writing from that point of view, of course. And I got my point over. Their strength is the fact that we don't believe they exist. So, and I couldn't resist putting pieces in there. So anyway, I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's just far too long. And it's only the first chapter of the book. So if anyone has never read this book, I can thoroughly recommend it. It's called The Screwtape Letters. I read this when I was a very, very young man, about 16. Came across it accidentally and loved it instantly. So
yeah, Lewis is fantastic. It's
oh yeah, absolutely. I hope he doesn't mind.
Well, it's a bit late now if he does.
It's a bit late. It's a bit late for him to be bothered about it. Anyway, folks, that is the official end now of the live stream. I hope you have all enjoyed your evening. I hope you have a great weekend on top of it. And the only thing that we haven't discussed, and it is, are we going to have another poetry live stream?
Yes.
happy to, but I'll have to write some more poems.
Yeah, and I'll get these discs sorted out.
See, if we don't have another poetry stream, we can't organise getting them all into the book, and then we'll have no Christmas presents for next year. So
I was just going to say I'll have to find another poetry book. Actually, no, many pages left in this one.
Oh yeah. Anglo-Saxon wants to know if you speak Latin, Rory, or is it bits and
I
pieces?
I did study Latin at school. Yeah, I speak a little. Yeah, only up to sort of O level GCSE now. My son, however, he studied Latin and ancient Greek, and then went on to study classics at Trinity College, Cambridge. So yeah, if you need anything translating, my son is the man to turn to on that.
Uh, there's no such thing as only two O-level Latin. That's that's not an only.
No.
That's
You
All right.
realise that
Right,
Rory,
Honore Dei dispensatio fidelis, spec fortuna domus, arma partis fulgum, per adjua ad astra. Latin is still part of our language.
yes. Well, I'm old enough to be able to tell you with a high degree of confidence that the classics taught in secondary school were the first thing that went.
Yeah.
That was the
Do you know
first
what?
thing.
I was having a conversation the other day. I was talking about one of my first loves was and considerations for a career was archaeology, but I wasn't good enough at Latin and Greek, and the person was saying, "Well, you don't need to do that anymore to become an archaeologist." I thought, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, but you want to do it properly.
Exactly.
There is a difference. There is a difference.
the
It's like the difference between reading a comic and reading a book.
the grammar school my sister went to. They did Latin compulsory first, second, and third year.
Yeah.
And then you had a choice as to whether or not you took it on full level. And the main reason why they had a choice and it wasn't compulsory, along with English language, English literature, and maths, and one science, was they didn't want to push people into Latin that weren't capable of it and deprive them of a different O level.
Yeah, well, that sounds a pure excuse to me.
It used to be
John.
something you had to do for to study law.
That's right.
Yeah, John. One of the funniest things I did in school was in French class. They got us to translate from that the comic book Asterix and Obelix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because cartoon French is rather different from normal French. You know, they come up with expressions that you wouldn't otherwise understand. So I actually found that really interesting. Plus, you read the books or the leaflet, the comic books, which was great fun as well.
Sure.
Is comic book French similar to Quebecan French? Because Quebec French and normal French are two different languages.
I think it's probably similar. 42. It was different from your standard French that you learn. You know,
Yep.
part of the fun.
The Quebec, the French Canadians went to Quebec. They have a different form of French than the French people because the French people couldn't get on with them. That's why they ended up in Quebec. They were previous in Ireland. They got kicked out of Ireland. They went to France and lived in a small part of France, and the French got fed up with them, and they went to Quebec, and now they're in Quebec all these years later.
Okay.
And the Canadians can't get on with them.
I've never been to Quebec. I've been to Toronto, but never Quebec. And Toronto was very English speaking.
Yes, but
Yeah.
the thing that people don't seem to realize, and I only became acutely aware of it as an undergrad, that if you seriously want to study literature, you've got to tackle Latin and Greek. You've just got to tackle it, and you've got to be more than passable in it, so that these worlds that are close to people like me, and they are, begin to open up, and we begin to discover things for ourselves that are in very notable books that aren't quite right. You know?
Well, John, have you heard of a chap called Bishop Williamson?
Yes, I have. I know.
He was talking about his early life, and he studied Latin and Greek at Winchester, and then went on to Cambridge. And he made exactly the point that you just made. Unless you study those languages, you know nothing. The modern degrees are absolutely rubbish. And you can do anything you want because it gives you the ability, to work things out, which never happens anymore at universities.
Yeah.
Well, you've only got to look at the characters like we mentioned before, C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
Who was so steeped in the classics, Greek and Latin. It's a lost thing. That kind of degree of intensity of learning, has gone.
Yeah.
To a large degree.
This might sound as though I'm lowering the tone of the conversation, but I don't genuinely think I am. If you don't have access to Greek and Latin, it's so much easier to lie to people. And they have no way of checking. And that to me is one of the reasons why it's cut off from school education.
Never mind that. We have a generation of children that are not learning how to write. I'm not sure what the proper word for it, but I always call it joined up. It's what it was in our school, where you have they can't write that, they can't read that, and without that ability, you cannot read original documents.
Yeah. All of this, of course, as we all know, is done deliberately for all sorts of nefarious reasons, and they are all nefarious reasons. But again, it goes back to this that we all talk about endlessly, is you need to be in positions of authority before you get any hope of ever changing that around. And we're a long way from that. Sad to say. Well, anyway, gents, I'm going to bring this live stream now at 12 o'clock to an end. And I want to thank the audience for being here. I want to thank the moderators for being here. My special guests. What's your name again? Oh, I'm Rory. That's right, Rory. Thank you, Rory, for popping on. Thank you very much, Chris, for being here. And thank you, 42, for also being here. And I know we will have another poetry stream, without a doubt. But when we initially spoke about 42 and we thought maybe 2 would be enough in a year. But again, that's food for thought.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, John. No problem. I'm very pleased to see that Chris and I have the same sort of taste in shirts. That's very important to me.
Well, I would refer you to the dictionary and look up the meaning of the word taste.
Do you know I've got my shorts on? You can't see below the camera. Yeah, I've got. I just put it, and I put my jacket on because I was cold, not because I was trying to look smart.
Well, I'm just trying to think of the Latin of taste. There is no dispute, and I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Well, POW.
Oh, I've got it. De gustibus non est disputandum, I think. There we go. To end on a Latin note.
I'm going to have to brush up on my Latin for the next stream.
Oh. Anything about Latin was learned by me. as I became an altar boy when I was in school for the Latin Mass. However,
There we go.
that's a different use of the line.
In nomine Patris et Filius Spiritus Sancti.
I do that every day when I wake
Excellent. And pray the rosary.
up. Anyway, folks, any last words, Rory, before I remove you from the live stream?
No, I don't think so. Good night to 42 over there, obviously, and you, John
Thank you.
and Chris.
Good night. Take care. Good to see you, Rory.
Right.
You too, Chris.
Right. Bye just now, Rory.
Right back.
Any last words, Chris?
No, I think you've probably heard enough from me tonight, so I'll thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me on. It was great fun. I really enjoyed it.
No. Our pleasure indeed. And the way things worked out, it was a real lifesaver for me. With 42 being tied up like that earlier on. So.
But it was inspiring too, actually, just to listen to everybody else's contributions. It was great. You know?
Wasn't it? It? It's like, as we all say, we've got so much talent. And yet, every culture's the same.
Yeah.
All right, okay, folks. I'll remove you. You get any last words, any advertising you want to do there, Chris, on books or anything like that?
Oh no, I'm no good at that kind of thing. But yeah, buy books, folks. They're still out there. Yep, that's it.
Absolutely.
Really.
Very good. So, 42. Have you got any last words for the audience?
Just thank you very much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love doing these streams. I love the interaction with the audience. I think it's a better form. I was glad we had Keith and Rory on, and there's more interaction. I just really enjoyed it, and thanks very much for having me on.
Not a problem, my friend, and we'll do it obviously again.
Yep.
We might want to think about Christmas, New Year as a time.
Yep.
You know?
Yep, I'd be up for that.
Yeah. Well, we'll think on it, folks. So I'll take you out, 10:42.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You want to advertise your channel or anything?
Everybody here can find it.
Well, okay then.
Everybody here can find it. I would echo what Chris said. Buy yourself books and paper. Everything that's digital is being edited and changed, and the book that you've got sitting in your cupboard will not change. And if you can get your hands on it, get a library, get a dictionary from the 1960s.
Absolutely. Okay, I'll take you out. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Well, there you go, folks. That's our second poetry live stream. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I have. And there's nothing left now to say except au revoir, adios, cheerio, and until Tuesday evening, 9 o'clock, enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I'll speak to you on Tuesday. Bye just now. Thanks again for being here.